We have time for one more. We're over.
Senator Santorum, for all of us here who want to support your campaign, how do we address the check?
That's Rick Santorum for president. That's if you can do that, or you can go on our website, which is ricksantorum.com. We're running a campaign that's very different than everybody else. I always say you can spend your campaign time doing two things. One is you can go out and talk to voters and try to connect with people and win their hearts and minds. And that's what I've done. I've done almost 200 town hall meetings in Iowa so far this year. I've been to all 99 counties. And I'll be there tomorrow and I'll be there for the rest of the week. I don't spend a lot of time raising money. If you look at the campaign schedules of most of the candidates that are raising a lot of money, they spend most of their time raising money. They travel around to big cities and they meet with wealthy donors, and they spend all their time networking in that group. And I would make the argument that who you hang around with is who you have to serve. And I'd rather hang around with the grassroots folks and have just enough resources to be able to keep fuel in my tank and work on the ideas that you've heard here today. This was not some big group of economists that worked on this plan. I had some people that helped me. But I worked on this plan for a year. And that's why I could stand here and talk about this plan without having to read a whole bunch of notes. Because this is our plan. This is my plan. And if you want someone who can sit and get things done and go to Washington, D.C. and meet with people, and even though they disagree with you, not be disagreeable, be able to sit down and understand the issues well enough to be able to reach the people on the other side of the aisle and say, okay, that's something we can incorporate that makes sense because you know the stuff well enough to do it. If you don't go out and hammer people and call them by name and criticize their motives and intents for why they're doing what they're doing, but have a good, honest policy discussion and disagree without being disagreeable, then you get a lot of things done in Washington. I believe that because I've done it. And things aren't any more partisan now than they were 5 years ago. The only reason they might be a little bit more rancorous is because we have a president who's toxic. A president that no one trusts. A president who points out people and questions their motivations, challenges them on whether they actually want to do what's right for the country, instead of recognizing that we can have honest disagreements and people of goodwill can have different ways of approaching these problems. That's adult leadership. And if there's anything I've shown in the time that I was in Washington, D.C., whether it's on national security, I led the charge on two major pieces of legislation, one that put sanctions on Assad in Syria, and one that put sanctions on the Iranian nuclear program. It's those sanctions that brought Iran to the table for these negotiations. And I did so with broad bipartisan support. I went to a person to sponsor both those bills who I probably had the most rancorous relationship on the floor of the United States Senate. I probably did battle with her more than any other person. Some of the most famous debates during that time were Barbara Boxer and Rick Santorum going at it on a variety of different issues. But I knew that if I could get her support for this, that we could build a bipartisan team. And I'm very happy to give her full credit for helping us get those things through. That's what leadership is. That's how bipartisanship works. You find people who agree with you and start being trustworthy and disagreeable when it comes to people's motivations. And so if that's what you want, if you want someone to go to Washington, D.C. with a clear vision of how to get this country going, one that can get bipartisan support, and one that can sit down with folks on the other side of the aisle and actually move things forward, then go to ricksantorum.com and help us out. Because this race is a long, long way from being over. And there's an opportunity, I know, because I did it 4 years ago. I was at 1% in the polls 4 years ago. I was at 2% in the national polls a few days before I won the Iowa caucuses with 26% of the vote. So don't let these national polls fool you. What matters is the person with the right idea, the right vision, because that's who the people of Iowa are going to pay attention to when it's all said and done. And I'm going to give them plenty of opportunities to hear me and to win their support. And when I come out of Iowa with a win, then this whole race is going to be set on its head, and it's going to be game on again. And hopefully we can count on your support to make that happen. Thank you all very much.